Okay, Cote. As I get lately, I've felt really busy, and now that I have like Claude Code as like a personal assistant, then I feel like I can take on more and more because there's
Mm,
I can automate away all the toil. But I still am feeling like my to-do list is always like four times longer than what I'm actually physically able to do.
sure.
And right now I'm kind of like confronting like how do I sort this? Because I think what I'm doing is just picking whatever. I see a list of possible things to do and I'm like that one's pretty comfortable. I'm going to do that. When really I should maybe even target what's uncomfortable or at least be looking for highest impact.
Uh-huh.
How do you sort your to-dos or do you
Oh.
how do you choose which thing is the thing you're going to take action on?
Oh, a lot of thought goes into that, Whitney.
Yeah?
And it's also amazing that I feel like I can give advice to my kids about organizing their life based on how little I do with the thought I put into to my own there. But I
Wait, do your kids want that advice?
no, they don't want that advice.
I've never met a kid who wants advice about how to organize their life.
I think when I'm trying to mold the potential of my children, I try to think back when I was their age and think about just like how much I knew everything and that I had it figured out. And I'm empathetic towards their brains are too full of things that they know, so they don't need more. But first of all, I'm shocked. You seem to be someone who's got their shit together all the time as far as to-do list stuff. So, you know, it's good. It's good to hear that you're human like the rest of us.
Presenting as such. I do think part of the issue is Cloud Code making me feel like I could do even more.
It's
and
true.
It's just
there is like a certain what is it? Over productivity, I guess. I don't know. Obviously I don't know how to say it, but you get this if you use AI stuff a lot, there's two effects. One, you're probably, as you're kind of saying, already a mess of all the wonderful things you could do in your life. So it's hard to organize all of that. So that's the baseline. And
which
then
is a great problem.
sure.
Too.
Yeah, you've got a wealth of to-dos that you could be doing. And but then you're like I have this thing that can just like automate all sorts of stuff. Anytime I put my fingers on the keyboard, it could kind of do it for me, whatever that may be. And so it makes you think like, and so then you start doing lots of more stuff, but then you're still like, and now I'm done with that. I have to do something else. And like, it's just
the addictive part of the Claude coding.
Yeah. Like remember people used to talk about the Overton window all the time. There's some
I
kind
have
of
zero idea what the Overton window is.
it's like some weird speculative political book or something from the 60s and like and what it is reinterpreted as, I'll probably butcher this all up, is like
You already have, friend.
yeah, thank you. There's like a floor of acceptable norms, and then slowly but maybe not surely, but slowly it becomes, it's okay to fart at the dinner table, and the next thing you know, it's okay to like just like burp at the dinner table, and no one ever knew that at one point if you ate with your mouth open you would get a spanking. Right.
Yeah.
And so like there's a similar like window for like productivity where like we used to need a room full of people just to like figure out how much money we made this week as a company. And now we just need to press a button, but we still need to do a whole bunch of work. Like, and so I think that's like this feeling of productivity problems I get. Going back to what you're saying is, and then you still have an ever growing list of to-do items. And And then as far as prioritizing them, I think that even compounds it more because you've done a lot of stuff already, and then you just should feel like you should do more valuable stuff. I don't know. Does anyone ever think like, well, it's 3:00. I've done enough.
I'm going to go for a walk in the sunshine.
I had a to-do list and
I did it all. It's done.
And then,
that's so sad that the idea of a finished to-do list feels so hilarious.
Or even more to your point is like, let's say that you weren't actually done with the project, but you had done some like 2026 version of a Gantt chart where you staged out the gates and when the date was, and then on Thursday you're like, yeah, I did all the stuff I need to do for Thursday. So tomorrow I got stuff to do, but not right now. Like, and then No, you just feel like you always got to be doing something. But as far as picking things, I think I'm a version of what you're saying is there's either a deadline that I have to meet, and I'll have consequences and shame and self bad feelings if I don't do it, or there's something really cool I just came across 45 seconds ago, and it's there's pretty much no in between.
It's like what's the kind of bird that likes the shiny things? A magpie?
Oh yeah,
like
yeah.
a magpie. Well, let's introduce our guest and hear her ideas about to-do lists and staying busy. Emily, will you introduce yourself, please?
Yes, hi. I'm Emily Long. I am the CEO at Edera.
So you're not busy at all, is what I'm hearing. You always have your list done.
Done at once.
You know, it's really funny. I love to-do lists. Like I love, but I write them physically down, and then I use Claude and all those types of things. But I find great pleasure in like writing the thing and still crossing it off, which might state my age, but like I just love it. I feel like even though the lists never end, it somehow makes me feel better about it psychologically. I'm not really sure.
For a while, I was on a kick where I would put my to-do list on index cards and then set them in a pile so I could only see one at once. And the next time one wasn't revealed until this one was done.
But then did you realize you could just look under the card?
No, I never figured it out. What?
Can move that? No.
But okay, especially with something handwritten, how do you deal with the matter of prioritization?
Yes. I mean, I have, what are those, the Remarkable? Isn't that what they're called? They're like the written
tablet.
The tablet. So there's a lot of easy ways to like reorganize and move and create different pages there, but be able to physically write so that you're not dealing with like paper and movement, which has helped me a lot. But I don't, I put more like categories on there, and then sometimes I'll have subheaders, but I'll write down things as simple as like send the email to so-and-so when I really need to feel a good moment of like zen.
Do you ever write it down? Just to cross it off.
Oh, absolutely, I do.
I do that too.
Absolutely, I do. Yeah,
I do that all the time.
Instant.
That's the best is when you write a to-do item after it's already been done, and then you can immediately like, cross it off.
Thank you very much. Yes, I'm very good today.
Yeah.
Yes. But prioritizing it's hard though, because I think sometimes you do need those quick wins, and so you kind of have to give yourself a moment to get those done. But when I know I'm avoiding something a lot, it's usually because I should do it. So a lot of times I have to take that moment of dissonance and have that conversation with myself and say it's time.
That is a good heuristic. I got some advice from my therapist once, and I was saying like, I admire all the mindfulness stuff because it seems like you can just relax. And he was like, you should listen to your stress because it's usually telling you something you need to worry about. And I guess it's a version of the like, sometimes people who are paranoid are right.
Yes. There's probably a limit to that, but then you still have to have that moment to be right. There's a rate. It's there. Yeah.
Or I've read too that procrastination is like a form of discomfort. There's something that's making you uncomfortable about the idea of doing that, whether even to the point of like maybe it's upsetting the idea of who you think you are. Like if you think you want to write a blog post and your idea is that it's going to be an amazing blog post, then that makes you not want to write it, because if you do and it's not amazing, then that upsets who you think you are. And so some of the one way to procrastinate less is to not have any attachment to the outcome of the thing you need to do. I need to write a blog post, full stop. It's going to be what it is. And then
it doesn't need to be a masterpiece. Yes.
Yeah.
All that pressure.
Have you fallen into the Claude, like AI assisted, whatever makes you feel so much more productive, and therefore you put in a million more things on your to-do list like I have?
Not yet. I use it a lot. I mean, I think that there's a lot of value, but I use it more as like an assistant to my brain in many ways. So I don't have a relationship with it of like, oh man, it's going to make everything go that much faster. Mostly because I still want to make sure I'm using my brain. I get a little scared of outsourcing so much that I'm not attached to the outcome of the thing I'm doing. So a lot of times I'll still do first draft, first review, or I'll, put a lot of thoughts out there and have it organize it. I don't have, there's obviously things for like emails and efficiencies and things like that, but a lot of my job is having to do with thinking, orienting, and moving things. So I make sure that I am very thoughtful with how much I outsource my reasoning. Because I don't like the sycophanticness of it can sometimes make me nervous. I don't want it to just tell me I'm great all the time. and it's like terrible, So I'm very cautious on how I talk to it.
There's a Claude Code plugin that's gotten really popular called Caveman that apparently saves you a lot of tokens just by having Claude Code talk like a caveman.
I think I saw that on LinkedIn or something. I'm like, that is hilarious.
But there are different levels to it where you can truly have it just grunt the bare minimum at you, or you could at least like just have it remove all the compliments and all the extra words.
You can have like taciturn farmer, like little more complete sentences, just some moods and grunts.
Taciturn farmer.
I'm gonna try that setting.
Since you are in a CEO role at a small company, what's at Amazon, they have this principle of like, you need to cultivate barking dogs, which is the opposite of sycophancy. And I don't know, something like that. But like, do you what do you do when you have someone who is too sycophantic, or like who you don't think is like, you're like, I need you to tell me that things are terrible, or whatever. Like something different than like, I just want to know like the actual truth of the situation, but like, you should really be angry right now. That would be professionally
that would be the right thing to do.
Of the company.
yeah. I don't know. I find it very helpful to lead with the self-deprecating, and not in like a way to try to get something back but to acknowledge what I've already found that was wrong, and be very open to the fact that was unhelpful. It's unhelpful not to know. We have a channel internal that's called Fail Fun, where we share all the times we fail, and we have like either laughs about it or like the hug emojis bounty, because it's like, ooh, that one was rough. But I do think that when you start to normalize that, it becomes less. It's not a good thing to be that way. Opinions and dissent are actually good, so long as So I try to do it by acknowledging that I fail constantly. And it helps people point it out because I'm already very aware. So you're not telling me anything I don't already know.
Oh, right. So there's kind of there's like I don't know, doing some leadership, as it were, to say I'm not like a precious porcelain thing that we have to be very quiet around, and like it's fine. Like you can say whatever negative you can be realistic about stuff and point out problems.
Or it actually makes me feel more comfortable to point out if I know a problem is there, or like I have the solution figured out, but there's a big like one gap that I don't have figured out. I'm way more comfortable pointing out the problem immediately than I am trying to pretend it's not there. In fact, it's the pretending there's no problem that makes me sick to my stomach.
Yeah, absolutely. Yeah. Well, I think it's also about how you emote that helps people be more comfortable with being able to disagree with you and being very clear about your intentions, so that it doesn't, no one's guessing how your reaction is going to be. Like I just met with a new hire today where I told him, like, if I have an issue, you'll know. So if you think I'm mad at you, ask me, I'll tell you no, because if something's wrong, I'll say, hey, so-and-so, like something's wrong. So it's like, so if there is something that we need to adjust or something that needs to change, like it creates an ability to have those, it's like a natural dialogue versus feeling this nervousness to say, I disagree. If that just becomes like the flow of normal course of conversation, it doesn't become this need to, and I make it very clear, flattery is very unbecoming for me. Like I do not like flattery. Like you were either grateful for a thing that occurred or you're going to share why you weren't. But you can usually tell when things are not genuine, and it makes me sad. Yeah. So like you can't like let's deal with the thing that's actually happening. I think realness is a very like that's kind of the point,
Will you tell me a failure story from your channel maybe? Oh, you can't tell someone else's. Tell me one of your own. I love it.
I won't tell somebody else's. I mean, sending the emails to the wrong person, like little things, or those little failures where it's like, oh man, that was embarrassing. writing a whole doc and like realizing that it was like the completely wrong point, like doing an investor update or something like that. And I realized I was totally like, it wasn't, so I had to start over. And like, these are little failures, but they're meaningful because you spent your time on something that didn't work, or, you know, recently having a very strong opinion about what we should do, like from a product direction, and then getting a lot of, you know, dissonance and saying you missed it. And then me having that moment being like, oh yeah, damn. You know, and I spent a lot of time in meetings and figuring things out just to find that it was wrong. And we say every week at our all hands, it's like failure, we need to, you know, I always say 10x our failure rate is good. And then if we don't use something that we create, that's actually good because it creates knowledge of the direction you know, that you need to be on. Like we wouldn't know if we didn't have those failures. So, I fail every day. I mean, it is constant because you don't know, you know, nobody knows what they're doing if we're being honest. You know, you're using your intuition, you're looking at data, you're listening to inputs, and you make a call. And this job more than any has shown me how many calls you make that are wrong. And the benefit is that you don't let that weigh on you, that you just pivot and change and adjust fast. Like that's how you keep going and win, is not because you know what you're doing. So I see it as a good thing.
And actually feeling that little bit of pain helps the lesson really stick and not have that happen again in the future too.
Oh yeah. Well, empathy doesn't happen either. Like you can't work well with people if you don't know what it feels like to feel pain, or you can't, you know, being able to adjust doesn't happen when you don't see the outcome of that thing in real time. And it's with kids. I think they don't want your advice. You want to tell them anyway. And I literally told my daughter the other day, like, I wish I could impart all of the stupid things I've done to you so you don't have to do them too. But there we are.
You have to, yeah.
This is literally the human existence. Yeah.
So can we level set a little bit and have you say, like, you said you're CEO of Adera, maybe how you became CEO of Adera and what Adera is?
Yes. So we founded about 2 years ago. I have two co-founders who are lovely women, Alex Zenla and Ariadne Connell. Ariadne and I worked together at Changard. I was the COO there prior, and she was a distinguished engineer who created a lot of the underpinnings of the minimal image movement. And she created Wolfie and all the things that become of that. She's an incredible technical prodigy, lovely human. She actually left to go start a company with Alex Zenla, who's now the CTO of Edera. And anytime I know that Ariadne was looking at a technology, it must be interesting if it was enough for her to want to do something like that. And I literally reached out to her and said, hi, I do different things than you. Do you need something like me? So we spent 6 weeks kind of talking about a lot of things, not just about the product and viability of the problem we were solving, which I'll go to in a second, but the type of company we wanted to create and what was meaningful to us from a culture perspective. Okay. Yeah, like growth, like who are we and what does this mean? Because I think we've been around long enough to know that the experience people have in a company is very much defined by the founder's importance on certain values. And it was really important that we agreed on those values. And so when we did that and we pressure tested the product in the market, Edera came to be. And neither one of them wanted to be a CEO. I don't know that I ever wanted to do that either, up until we kind of started talking, because I'd been a COO twice. I was really nervous to do it for a very deep tech company, knowing my background is very non-traditional. I'm coming up in finance and accounting and then HR for the primary career, and then ending up an operator. It required a tremendous amount of technical learning, but they, I think we're really great balance for each other. I enable them to do everything they need to do to create incredible technology and can facilitate a great team environment. And I've learned so much about the industry that I can do it too. So that was kind of how it happened. But we are a hardened runtime. What that means is that we secure your infrastructure foundations from the start. So it's very a la minimal images. So like I get an image, there's no vulnerabilities, I can trust it. But what happens when you build on it? Now I'm adding all of my Claude generated code, third-party code, untrusted code. I'm running this multi-tenant style with different departments side by side, or I'm allowing third parties to come in and add code themselves. What does that mean for my runtime? How do I protect it? And the industry before we kind of got here was more on that detection and response, which is very important. eBPF, all those things. Let's know what's going on and make those changes. What we do is we change your actual infrastructure foundation by creating actual hardened runtime, meaning like the actual, like we create zones around containers that allow you to actually trust the boundaries. So it's so people say, you know, what's a container? Doesn't the name mean that it contains the thing that's in it? It's like, well, actually, no, containers are a list of processes. How do I actually recognize?
It's still running on the host security? OS. Yeah.
Yes. Like a shared kernel state. What does that mean? And now, you know, all the Mythos announcement with Anthropic and all of the, like it used to be, let's patch the known vulnerabilities and I feel safe enough to trust my infrastructure. Now it's like 0 days is the new hotness. Like we have to understand that we aren't going to know the exploits that are coming. Like we're really well positioned to make sure that you can trust the infrastructure you have without worrying.
Instead of the previous detect and respond model, it's put gates around it so it doesn't happen in the first place.
Like we should just be eliminating it. We chase a lot of alerts and we have to get context for a lot of things that may or may not be important, and it takes a lot of time. Our theory is that you don't have to make this hard. You can actually change structural foundations without starting over. And that was really where we spent a lot of time, is making sure that you can actually create the secure infrastructure without asking people to rebuild. Because the idea of secure by design can sometimes be very overwhelming, because it's like, well, what do I got to do? Start over?
Migrate zero trust.
Over to this new thing. Zero trust, we go, like in concept, like,
there's so much work.
But we say, no, you change your, container runtime to us and we'll take it from here. And that really has enabled us to get people a lot farther faster.
How big is Edera, and how far are you with your fundraising rounds?
Yes, so we have done seed and Series A. So we've taken on 20 million to date. We are at 30 people now, I think.
Nice.
32 maybe. The majority engineers. What we do is really, really hard and really, really low level. So we sit right on top of the hardware. So we need people who know GPUs and CPUs, the hardware itself. We need people who know hypervisors, the kernel levels, cloud native, Kubernetes. So our team is stacked with wonderful people who dive deep into all these disciplines, and we kind of put it together in this like wonderful package of secure infrastructure. It's very, very cool to watch.
That's awesome. I had a question and I lost it. Sorry.
And it's going to come back, and it's going to be magical when it does. So even if it's 30 minutes from now.
Like how I've seen several throughout my career, several like CEOs and COOs and like kind of like different roles that people play in various stages of a company. Like having done both of those now, like what does a CEO do in the not differently? Is a COO a subset of a CEO, or are they like overlapping things, or like what's the roles and responsibilities between the two? Because it always seems like they could very easily be overlapping in an annoying way, or not. Like you have to kind of manage there's a lot of C's out there, and you got to make sure that
there are. Yeah, who are all these C's anyway? I mean, come on. I find it so. The COO role is really funny because I think there's like an article, I don't know, I think on Harvard Business Review or something. It's like the 7 different types of COOs, and they're astronomically different. It's like the COO that's an extension of the CEO, the COO that has all the post-sales operations stuff. It's the COO that knows more about finance and HR and legal. So the title itself is very confusing and ambiguous. I can tell you from my experience, I did all of like the back office G&A stuff, like finance, HR, legal, security, and post-sales, which is technical support, professional services, customer success. And at one point I also had sales. So it can be a mix of all the things. What I have, this has been the hardest job I've ever had and the most enjoyable, both. But the thing that I think was very different between the two is the relationship you have with the people you work with and your role in the decision making that's having to happen. So for example, I still own departments. And so I was still advocating on behalf of the teams that I had, right? Because there were still teams that wasn't managing, that would report it up to the CEO. And so I was still facilitating a lot. And now what has been a really interesting transition, and particularly because I work with at least over half of our team or people I've worked with in my prior life and at prior companies, I am the one to disappoint somebody every moment, right? So like, if you're doing things correctly, not everyone should be agreeing with you, as we started talking about earlier, which means that you're going to have 5 people at any given point talking about one issue. 2 say one thing, 2 say another, 1 says another. And then I'm sitting there being like, well, I gotta make the decision. So I do. So either 1 to 3 people are going to be excited about it. The other 2 to 3 won't. And that relationship with yourself was one of the hardest things that I had to transition on, is that I had to understand that I no longer was being like a advocate for and a facilitator and moderator, and more, I have to absorb the end result of the thing and make a call and deal with the reactions of that. And that has been really, really different. You know, I have to take all of that on, and like, everyone's really smart. And I want everyone to be happy, but you simply cannot do that. So from a mental standpoint, I had to do a lot of adjustments there to get comfortable with the fact that in any situation, it's just going to be that way.
What's your day-to-day life like? Like, what do you do in a day?
I mean, every week is different, but sometimes like I have a couple VC meetings because you're always curating relationships with investors. I'm very involved in all of our customers and prospects. So I'm almost always at least a couple times a week in a prospect meeting or facilitating around that. Cross-departmental decision-making, like, so what process are we going to do here? Did we pull this metrics here? What decision are we making here? And I'm kind of popping in lots, you know, it's a culmination of a lot of things. And that's a
you're up in everybody's business, it sounds like.
Oh, it is. But at the same time, trying to let go of the things that make sense for folks to own, but not too much, because then they still need somebody to look at and be like, make a call so that we don't have to, you know, continue to have discourse amongst each other. Because I fluctuated a lot. At first I was like, full ownership, empowerment, yes, because like that was my vision and what I wanted to have. And then it kind of moved to, I have one of my direct reports say, you know, if I wanted your job, I would have had a different job. So I actually need you to tell me the answer, you know. But I was like, yeah, but, you know, but I thought I was being empowering, and in reality, I was being confusing. So there's like all these like really funny things. You start to think you're doing one thing, the reaction is different. But that's why it's important for people to tell you when you're not being helpful, you know.
So I used to, this may be kind of like a weird trivial question, but I used to, I was a programmer for a long time, and then I worked, I did M&A and corporate strategy at Dell. So I went from working with like developers to like, well, I was an analyst in between, but whatever, with a bunch of MBA people. Like there was one person who like literally drove a red Porsche Carrera, and I was like, this is perfect. For the, he was a nice person. But like, in your, I was thinking, listening to your situation, you have like, you know, a 30-person startup with people who are very low level in the stack, you know, very engineer, technical driven. So you probably like maybe in the same hour get sent like a markdown file and then like a PowerPoint presentation from like 2 rhetorically very different ways of communicating. And like,
yes,
I don't know, is that kind of stressful on your brain to go between these 2 different just aesthetics of communicating and almost being a human? Like, yeah,
it's a context switching like on steroids,
right?
Because
and just like what I learned from my Porsche Carrera friend is like, it actually does matter if those pixels on the slide line up correctly, like that.
Yeah.
That misaligning it could be multiple millions of dollars that we've just not gotten.
Yes. It is. But I mean, I will say like the team around, I trust so much that we're getting to the place where we understand what needs to get sent through to me and what folks can just do and run. So I certainly don't aspire to slow people down. So earlier I was much deeper, like you were saying. Now I'm still very involved, but like the markdown file is probably lower than I see now, but I will get sent a GitHub issue and look in the comments and see what the themes are. And then I'll ask, can you pull this up 3 levels? What's the impact? So I have learned to try not to push myself into things and make people stop and explain if the outcome is not going to be particularly helpful. But yes, the context switching, I sometimes have to start a meeting with like, where am I? Okay, we're talking about sales right now. Cool. But I just have to I'll say it out loud just to make sure that I remember what I'm doing. But it's, I've tried to change some organizational components of how I operate in life, like stacking certain meetings on certain days so I can have more of a natural flow of a common thing to the extent that I can. But in startup world, it's, you wake up and you're going to figure out what day you're going to have. So there's not a whole lot you can do.
I mean, context switching. That's the phrase that fits, because you go between like here's a programmer, customer, sales, random investment banker I'm talking with for some reason, and then this person, and like all over the place, and then probably like here's someone we're gonna rent an office from. Like just
yeah, you're like, wait, the mail got lost. Okay, I don't know.
Just all over the place.
Yeah. Oh, it's comical. Or like, yeah, our subscription on this thing, the credit card was wrong. Oh no, it's just it is a weird. It's weird, but I call it like it's like getting in shape. Just like if you're gonna train for a triathlon or a marathon or whatever you're doing, it's different muscles. So I found that like I've trained certain muscles to be able to, but there are times when I can tell my brain is done. I don't know what the study was like. You can make X amount of decisions in a day. That's why Steve Jobs would wear his black turtleneck and people have uniforms. It's like, at least I'm not deciding what to wear today. It's that kind of stuff where I'll start to censor like, oh, it's going down. Like we should not ask me anything important right now. So I try to be very aware of my mental and emotional state so that I can tap out when I'm losing it, which does happen sometimes on days when there are too many decisions.
What's the money part? Are you part of fundraising? Is that part of your job? Yeah.
It's my responsibility. Yeah.
How does one do that? Especially at the beginning? Like, do you just call VC firms and be like, money, please?
Like, hi, you like me, I swear. Wow. I learned almost the most about myself fundraising with nothing than I think I've ever done in my life. And I say that because you get rejected so much. I mean, you have to have this and you have to understand the signals of your rejection. For example, like to start, like your question was like, how does one start? You hope that you have some relationships with people who know people to give you what they call the warm intro. It's very important in VC land that you are introduced by somebody that they know so that they know that you're worth their time. Cold outreach is very not successful. VCs will find out that you've started a company and sometimes they will cold outreach, and that's an acceptable place to start a meeting. But there's a couple things that you have to know about that, which is certain people in VC land have like sales goals. They have to talk to X amount of people in a week. So a lot of times the meeting you're taking is just a line item.
To meet a quota.
And not
so they could cross something off their to-do list.
Yes. And you're preparing for this your big moment, and they're just like, nope. So warm leads are much better. But there's a lot of reasons you get rejected. Some of them is people don't know what your industry is and they're not interested in it. Sometimes they just don't believe that the market is there. Sometimes they just don't like you. I mean, there's like a lot of different reasons. And the thing I learned the most early on is like, no one will tell you which one of those things it is. Yeah. Everyone is very polite. Thank you so much for your time. This is so interesting. And then you'll get an email like, we passed. And you have to have like so much confidence in yourself and conviction in the thing that you're doing to try to figure out what feedback is real. Because you don't want to be like, none of these people get me, and then keep doing the same presentation that's awful. Or every time somebody says something's wrong, you change it. And it's just for reasons that have nothing to do with you or your market. You're just insecure and nervous. So that was, I mean, I just had to get to the point where it's like, my people are going to know me, and we're going to find each other when we find each other, and it's going to work out, but you have to do it over and over. Yes. But speed dating for months.
What's the scale? Like how many rejections did you get before you got enough to truly start?
I want to say before our term sheet, I probably did maybe 40 or 50 of them.
Wow.
I think that they're on average, it says, I mean, some stats are different. It's like anywhere between like 50 and 150 meetings for you to get there. Sometimes you get lucky and it just works out. It is much harder for women, like much harder.
I was wondering if being an all-woman founding team was with for or against you. Yeah.
Yeah, it does not.
I know.
You want the world to be different, and it's. I have some funny stories of like the things that have happened, but you find your people. Like,
will you tell me one story now? Or is it, should we save it for next time to see each other person? Okay.
I will lead into, so one piece of advice, this woman on LinkedIn had written these like things, and I cold messaged her and said, because she had raised, hundreds of millions of dollars across multiple rounds, and she was talking about a lot of different things. And I cold outreached her and said, I'm pitching and this is really hard. Like, do you have advice? And so she jumped on with me and her CFO on a meeting just out of the kindness of her heart to tell me that I'm going to have to do twice as much, and that the questions compared to traditional founding teams, and that the questions I will get will be downside questions, not upside. So, and they've done studies on this too, where men will be asked, "What are you going to do when everything goes so well?" And then I will be asked, "Well, what safeguards are you going to put in place if your plan doesn't work?" And it's really hard because you're always on your back foot digging out and saying why it can, but you just don't know. Whereas the other questions are very much about possibilities, and mine is the other side. And it was very true that it was happening to me. And so she gave me a lot of advice on, you get the downside question, answer the upside one.
Nice.
Like, just answer the, very like politics answer it. Anyway, but my story, like one of my favorite ones, and I actually had a colleague join me that was a male colleague, just happened to be, that watched the pitch, and the gentleman that I was pitching to quite literally was typing as I was talking, and he was like, "I just Googled Kubernetes and I know more than you do." And I was like, "Oh, cool." And it ended. And then my colleague was like, "What?" He's like, "I thought it was bad, like when you would talk about it." He's like, "But I watched it happen in real time. But it's just this really, and what you have to do in those moments is go, thank you so much for the context you've given me. I really appreciate it."
Because at that point, you don't want to work with that person.
What do you mean? Yeah, because it's a small
why
industry.
Can't you? Oh, okay.
No, because everyone talks, and you can't be the one that's difficult. You can't be the one that's difficult. You have to be the one that's very gracious. So you have to have those moments where you smile and you're screaming in your head and you say, "Thank you so much for the you're right. I should probably look at what Google says about Kubernetes and think I've literally just told you about it." But cool. But you laugh it off, and I'm telling you, like, there's something really important about getting thick skin like that. Like, so much stuff just doesn't bother me anymore. Yeah. And you realize it's not you, it's them. And certain things are you. Like, sometimes I do say something that needs to be adjusted, and I hope that I have the people around me that will tell me. And I met some amazing VCs who did not give us money, who gave me wonderful advice and to change the way that I pitched and oriented. So it's like, it's a funny world.
We had Rachel Chalmers on the show a few episodes back, and
I love Rachel.
She's an investor for y'all. Yeah,
she
is. Talked about you.
Yes, yes, yeah. She's wonderful.
When you take VC money, is there strings attached? Is that a sometimes thing and always thing? What kind of strings are there?
Usually, it's a lot of times you take money for a board seat, which means that they have governance and control over certain things that your company does or will do in the future. And you have to answer to people who give you the money that allow you to try something. So you have to, you understand that it is, so I think some people get upset at venture because it's like, oh, they're in my business. And it's like, well, you wouldn't exist if they didn't fund you. So you have to kind of understand that the contracts you're signing. But that's why I take a lot of time in making sure that the VCs that we bring on are people who are aligned with our priorities. Like, Rachel's a great example. She's a VC. She gave us money, but she loves this in the industry we're in. She understands the tech that we're working with, and so you can get great advice and be excited with something together. Not all relationships are going to be winners, but I look for people who trust me. And trust the team and generally understand the problem that we're trying to solve so that we can collaborate. Some people will take money for logos and things like that, and that can be fairly problematic because then you might lose control of your company faster because you were never on the same page, you know.
Are you always funding? Even once you pass a certain round, you're immediately looking for yes.
I mean, you're always relationship building, because you never, when you need money, you never want to start it when you need it. The only time you start it when you need it is when you start a company. And there's this desperation that you feel at that time because you're like, is this going to happen? But later on, if you establish relationships, you're constantly kind of giving little bits about the progress of your business by the time you want to raise versus have to. Because want to is like right before you have to, so you keep a little bit of control. Because if you wait too long and you really need the money, they know.
They can smell it on you.
They can, you know, and then you end up giving them a better deal than maybe you would have if you had a bit more control of the situation.
Is there a point where like you're doing really well and the tables turn where they really want to give you money and you are interviewing them? Have you hit that point? Can you see it?
Can we all manifest that, please? Can we just our combined energy? No, I mean, we were very fortunate. Our Series A came 3 months after our seed. So we did our seed round, and 3 months later, we had hardly spent the money we had. We ended up getting our Series A with Microsoft, and that was very much in the same spirit of, if somebody's really excited about what you're doing, even if it's early and you have like a really good ability to exchange excitement in the space, you can have something like that happen, which I would attribute to that. It's different now. It's like if we really start to get these wildly successful metrics by the time we need to raise in X many months, yes, you can have people, you know, that is the dream, that people are knocking down your door, or what they call preempting, which means that they preempt around before you need it. So that's always what you, best case scenario is the preemption.
And you'll be really good when that happens and won't be Googling Kubernetes.
Oh my gosh, I'm supposed to know about Kubernetes when I work in containers? What? Like, oh my God. Painful.
I just Googled about VC funding and I know more about you do. That's what you're going to say to the people who want to give you money.
Totally.
Look it up on wikihow.com. It'll cover it with some delightful graphics.
I know how to use Excel. I can do your job, okay?
So, back to the to-do list, and then something you were saying, like the, like networking, to use that term in a genuine way. Like, does that show up on your to-do list? Like, do you set up a recurring thing of like, there's Chris over there. In 45 days, I need to make sure I have a touch point. I think that's what the touch point.
Yes, I have reminders to check in with folks. But I do that for so many times VCs will do that for you if they're generally interested in your space. Like they'll write and I say, we'll touch base in 3 to 4 months, and they're very proactive because they're sourcing deals too, right? Like that's their job. If you have good metrics and you're aligned with what they're looking for, there's a harmonious balance between double outreach, but so much of it is relationship building and trust. So yes, I do recurrings, but I also do that with people in the community too. Other people who are in either my space or tangent or have been through this before. I just was introduced through, I think if you guys know Paula, who's just wonderful.
Paula Kennedy.
Yeah, she's just a gem. But she introduced me to another CEO that's tangent space, met with her on Monday, and we were chatting, and she has been in this industry a lot longer than I have and offered monthlies. And so there's so much, like, I would say, like, supportive people. And I take space for that because it's really nice to be able to say some things out loud and be like, have I lost it? Or like, what would you do if you were me? And that is a form of therapy for me. I have my therapist, and then I have the people in industry who kind of help ground me in the chaos of all of this.
How was KubeCon for y'all? It just wrapped up a few weeks ago. What does success look like for Adera at KubeCon?
I mean, for a lot of it at our stage is awareness, because when you're a startup, it's like, what do you do? So we definitely had a lot more of a footprint in Europe, and we'll tend to do the same in North America. We had 2 booths.
This time around, you had 2 booths, but one booth was just windmill mini golf.
Yes.
So so now that I hear it's awareness, that makes more sense, because I was really good. Like, one of my questions I wrote down to ask you is like, are you really getting meaningful sales leads from windmill mini golf? You are?
What's really, yes. Well, because people are hanging out in line and you're waiting, what are you doing? You're kind of just looking around, and then you have your stuff like, and people, what is this? What do you do? And so we had what we called runners between both sections, because it's an activity, or what do they call it? A something zone, but it's supposed to be like make KubeCon more fun and interactive. So interactive zone, I think is what it is. Huh, logical. But you, there's just something really natural and easy for someone to come up and ask questions when you have something to do.
Yeah.
So,
absolutely.
but you're not supposed to, like, there's like, rules around the booth and stuff. It's not supposed to be like a full booth. You buy your booth for like demos and things. But it was a really great awareness driver. What do you do? Oh, interesting. Oh, do you work with, oh, great. Our booth's over there if you want to talk. Because there's a lot of, it's scary at these conferences to approach people. It's easier when you have something to do.
And you'll have cool branding. Like you have a axolotl as your mascot, and you have these t-shirts that kind of like Run DMC style say "fuck luck."
Yes, they do.
And so the sweat. So when people do the windmill mini golf, are they trying to win your cool swag? Is that the idea?
There's swag, or enter into a raffle. We'll do like a Happy Gilmore putter, or a golf bag and those types of things. You always have your, many booths have their giveaways, but we do have some spicy swag with our foul-mouthed axolotl, which gets a lot of love. But so much of being in a startup is being noticed, and so much of it has nothing to do with what you do until it does. And if people recognize you and it comes up, it's so much of it is like groundswell awareness before it is buying anything. So for us, we've spent a lot of time curating both the image of like the fun kind of lovingness of what we try to represent, and trying to do a lot of thought leadership around the space and kind of bringing people along to a new industry and those types of things. And funny enough, they are very partnered, like Ivy, our axolotl, has done many things. She's done construction. She's been a golfer. She's been Madonna. She does a lot of things, So, but you kind of follow her journey through so many different things, along with like the actual applicability of like the type of problems we're solving. But
you're going to attract a lot more people with a foul-mouthed axolotl than a taciturn farmer, I think.
That's right.
I mean, it depends on what you're into.
Kind of related to that, like I'm trying to think of the past places and the scale of them, but it seems like windmills and mini golf, ironically, doesn't scale the bigger the company gets. Like what's immediately popping to mind is like, I think people who are, well, now very big, like you look at like what Wiz does and they have a lot of fun, or at least I assume internally they have a lot of fun. And like, they had a video rental booth that I know they've had other places, and they do musicals and stuff like that. And they're pretty big deal. But then you go to other companies and they sort of like, especially if you walked around KubeCon, which has all the things, you can kind of be like, they're fun, they're not fun. They're fun. and like my theory would be, if you had a chart, the bigger and let's say more successful by market share and revenue a company is, the less fun they're going to be. And so like, I mean, for lack of a better way of asking it, what's up with that? Like, why does the fun all of a sudden stop?
I have a theory. I think as you get bigger, you feel this need to, you feel worried about what people are going to think, and you feel this need to be accommodating to all, and you don't want to either offend or people to misunderstand. I think Wiz is a really beautiful example of brand consistency over time. Like, they never have done like a major brand refresh. Like, they decided who they were, and they have been themselves throughout, and they're fine with that. Like you read a lot of stuff on marketing, and I have a great CMO too, and she's really good at storytelling and all these types of things as well. But it's like, you have to be unafraid for some people not to get it. Like, we get some looks with our potty mouthed axolotl. The people are like, "You have kids?" And I'm like, "Yeah." And they wear my shirt and they think it's funny, but we talk about what bad words mean and how to use them, but like, there's just, I think, different opinions, and you have to kind of have conviction around what that is and be confident enough to move it forward. And a lot of times you'll have leadership changes as you get older, and people have what I consider to be more traditional views on how you set up and brand. And Wiz hasn't done that. I hope as long as Adera is around, we continue to make our own edgy decisions, because I do think you get loyalty that way, but you also do get people who might not, or might think it's, childish or what have you, but I think that you just have to decide who you want to appeal to some degree. But I think a lot of it is just, we have to accommodate and be incredibly,
Yeah. Like maybe, I mean, I'm sure, well, not I'm sure, but I would imagine also as you become a larger organization, there's almost a, not a, I don't know the phrase, it's not reversion to mean, but it's sort of like, going to like the fun we can all agree on, which turns out to be not very much.
I would agree.
It's like not maximal fun in any direction. It's sort of like, well, this person over here doesn't like sesame seeds on their bread. This person doesn't like this. Yeah. So we've got that kind of like that bread that's the color of Docker pants that we can all, or like, it's how you end up. That's how you end up with well, I mean, there's basically like just the cheese pizza, but then also the other pizza. Like you kind of like no one. You never have the pineapple on the pizza.
I know, but like maybe you're just a pineapple pizza kind of person, and it's okay if somebody doesn't want to hang out with you for dinner, But you have to kind of be okay with that. And there is a sense of, would say confidence in what you're trying to achieve that you have to hold as you get bigger. And it's hard to pull off authenticity too. Because I think sometimes people try to manufacture fun, and that also goes horribly. So you have to kind of like, what type of fun do you want to have, and can you keep having it, and does it come across authentically? And I think that's hard to pull off, honestly. Good authentic fun.
So the reason I thought to invite you on the show is because on LinkedIn, I happened to see a piece you wrote. It was like something like the Great Purging of 2025. And you were talking about just going on a journaling spree and get some takeaways of what you need to let go of so you have room to grow. What will you talk more about that and what specifically you were letting go of? And now that it's a few months later, whether it's worked?
I would say it did, but goodness. So I'm a big journaler.
Me too.
Love a good journaling. Yes, I think we bonded over that a little bit.
Yes.
I think that well, first of all, life is hard and complex, and we all have very difficult things we have to deal with in our own ways. And I think the human experience is full of that. And I also think growth is painful, and why a lot of people try to avoid doing it, because it's awful until it's better, And I think the end of last year, or beginning of this year, because I think it was maybe January when I went through a lot of that, so starting this company. So for the first time in years, over December, a few months ago, I was like truly alone with my thoughts. And I think it's really hard to do that. Like, everyone's busy, but I'm a parent and all these types of things, and things were just kind of mellow. And I allowed myself to think about all of the things that were kind of in my way. Many of them were my perception of myself and what I thought I was supposed to be versus who I am, which is a very deep thing to say in a general sense, and be like, and then I figured it out. I don't think I did. But I do think that there were these things kind of related to what I shared about my job now. So many of them were related to that of like, I love the people I work with, and I want everyone to be happy. Why is that? Because I love how it makes me feel like to give everyone what they want. And why is that? Well, I where is my confidence in myself versus what am I getting from other people? Oh no, journal. So this is kind of like, there was so much, but that was involved in my personal life. Like, what am I seeking all this external value stuff? Because it's getting in the way of my ability to show up for people genuinely. Like when I had the team members say, like, I need you to tell me the decision. Like, it was one of those things, well, I thought I was empowering you. And in reality, I was making it worse for everybody because I was afraid, because the other side of that is disappointing people, And so it's like layered. So I spent a lot of time going through that and trying to get deep into what it was that I was holding on to. And there's kind of, calling it a purge is like this idea of like letting go of these like old ideas of who you think you are, or what makes something right. I think I've always had like a weird identity thing around like, I mean, I'm such a non-conventional person to be in this role. We're a female founded team. Like what statistically, what are we doing here? And then I have a very opposite world. Like my husband stayed home with the kids and and so everything that we do is like opposite worlds and like the standard stereotypical. So you find yourself overcompensating for certain things. So it was a very involved time over a 2-week period that I really let myself dive in and journal and cry a lot and hold the mirror up and then start to make different decisions. And it doesn't mean, like I said, I've figured it out, but there was some really good learnings there of that it's okay to stumble and learn. And then all of a sudden, I think, months later, I feel so much more, I don't want to say confident, but like I've accepted kind of my role and what this means and that I can still stay friends with the people around me, even though I have to behave differently for the greater good of the company, and same thing in my personal life. So,
well, that's some interesting, but that's a interesting sort of context for something Whitney and I talk about every now and then, which is like, so when you're working for a company or a startup, it can go back and forth between like, we're a bunch of people on a team doing stuff, and then like, we are part of the Borg of like, yes. we unite around this company and we are all one, like this is our identity and our life.
Yes, and for sure.
We've all become better at playing foosball over the past year because this is all we do. And like, I mean, it's easy and correct to say that like too much identifying with an organization is probably not healthy for an individual's long-term existence. But there probably is a certain amount of that you need. Like we're like, let's, and it's something even beyond, what is it? Like disagree and commit. It's sort of like, if we're going to have like a windmill mini golf thing, we got to do the fuck out of it. Right. Like,
yeah, that's right. For sure.
I know you may feel really weird about this, but just like, just go.
Put on the golf visor.
Yeah, and you're going to wear that onesie.
Right. So I mean, given everything you're saying, right? Like I imagine you would have some thoughts on like balancing, like you don't want to lose your identity in like the startup, which is very easy to do, versus like, I kind of need some of your energy.
Yes.
and like, I do need some merging here. And because there's like 30 of us, and I don't know. So how do you, especially in a CEO position, how do you like get a little bit of kindling from identity, but make sure you don't burn it away?
Yeah, I think what I've learned a lot is like making sure that the reason we're all here is because we share the greater purpose. And there's layers to that, which is some people here share the purpose of like, I care so much about this problem. Like I've been in container security for so long. And I've been screaming that containers don't contain. And I care so much about getting this technology into the world. And therefore I'm here to facilitate that. And then there's this subgroup of people here that are like, I have been burned at so many companies and led in this fear-based world. I want to participate in something that makes me feel proud and have the type of stress that doesn't make me feel fear, but instead kind of that like nervous anxiety, right. Or I want to work for somebody that I can learn a lot from, and I don't even really know what a hypervisor is. There's different reasons. And the funny thing is it doesn't always have to be the same, but it does have to be something that the company represents in some way, and being able to constantly let people tap into that. Like, they say a lot of times like the cultiness of it, I think you already inferred to like the Borg. And I think that there's truth to that. We all have to kind of be in it together because it does require a type of commitment that is unnatural at times. But I do think that that's why I care so much about the shared community, and where my purge was kind of like, it's okay for me to behave differently and we can still do this, meaning like I can stop this more like friends thing and go into this more decision maker thing, because it was hard for me to move, particularly knowing so many people here. And it still works because we're all there's something we want to achieve, and it can be different. And that's what I've kind of drawn into. And one of the things that I do every in-person offsite, we do it every 6 months. I do this thing called commitments, and it's like a little silly slideshow, but it's like, we all believe in the no asshole smart hustle policy, and we will abide by that. And we know that we can't ship things that are perfect. And then we know, and the last slide is, we know that Adera isn't for everyone, and that's okay. And I want to take the stigma away from people being able to look and be like, I'm in the wrong room, shoot. And it doesn't mean that it's not you could love the people and you could love certain reasons, but it's not about being there. So all that to say, it's not like an easy thing to answer, but I like to take the stigma away from this doesn't have to be the right place, but we want it to be. And so go lean into the thing that you love. And if it continues to be there and we can facilitate that, then we're all going to be in it together. And if not, then not. And there's different levels of reasons people are here. And I love kind of seeing all those reasons, and not everyone will stay. And I think that's natural and good, so long as we can find a way to make sure that we're all facilitating what's good for people. And if they believe that that's being prioritized, it's a lot easier to make decisions either way.
I have maybe a last question for you. We're getting close to time. If you think back to yourself, who you had two buddies who were together, maybe starting a company, and you messaged them to be like, hey, I'm here. And it's led you on this whirlwind journey, right? What would you tell that version of you right now, if you could?
Oh, don't panic so much. I think, in more, I think early me, I felt so much responsibility to get funding. It's like, if I couldn't figure that out, Adera wouldn't have existed. And I panicked. And I think early on, and not in a way that I don't think anybody saw it, but it was, my body was angry. It did not go well internally in the body. But I think when you go through that, what I feel now is like, it's going to be okay. I have Post-it notes around to remind myself. And so one of them over here says, no matter what, it's going to be okay. And then I have this no plan B one that's gone through a lot, but I wrote this one right when we started fundraising. And I think that part of it is like, there's these moments we feel so existential, but at the end of the day, it's like, if you have a good group of people around you and you're open to feedback constantly, like, you'll find your way. And I think if I would have treated my body a little bit better and mind during that time, I probably could have saved myself a good amount of pain. So that would have been really great. But I mean, everything is easier in hindsight. It's like, you did it. But at the time, I'm like, I don't know. I mean, this could be insane. It'd be like absolutely nutty.
Faster you grew, having experienced that much pain, though. I really do feel like the price of accelerated growth is frequent discomfort. Yeah. That's been my personal experience.
It is.
Yeah.
It is. Yeah. But I think accepting that discomfort versus rejecting that discomfort, because I rejected it, but still did it anyway. So there was like that internal discourse of like, no, fine, no, versus like, it's all terrible. Just like get through it. It's going to be, just learn. I think I have more of that mindset now, because I'm like, all right, come hit me with it, versus like,
you become comfortable being uncomfortable.
Yes, that is the goal, honestly. That is life's goal. If you can embrace that, you figured a lot out. I'm not fully there, but I'm getting there closer.
How do you think those Post-it notes work? Do you think they bring you out of having forgotten something, reminded something, or like, what is the like? I mean, I don't think any of us are neurosurgeons or researchers, but like, there must be some kind of multiple things that, like, when you look around, you're like, oh right, I remember that, or something, or I don't know. Is it like a comforting friend in two dimensions? Like, what do you think happens?
What people have told me is like, don't always just journal when things are wrong, journal when things are going well, so you can remember where you are in that moment in time. Because like, so many things are fleeting, where it's like, on those days when everything goes right, and then those days when everything goes wrong, usually when you're in the wrong one, you start to spiral, and assume it will always be that way. And when it's right, you can appreciate it for about 45 minutes and then start to imagine all the things that are going to go wrong. Right. So like, these are almost these like moments in time where I can be like no matter what, will be okay. My daughter wrote, yes, you will, underneath it. And so I have these moments where I go, okay, I remember that. I remember when that's happening. What's going on right now is not a forever state. It's just a moment in time. Right. So when I glance at those, I think it brings me back to this. Even when I can't feel it, I can intellectually understand that time is relative and these
Yeah,
things are temporary.
It's like it's almost like a bookmark, and it's like a positive
Right.
version of like reliving trauma, or like you
Yes.
want to relive, you want to have a bookmark to learn to relive
Right.
good.
Yes, because we're programmed to have to see threats all the time, right?
Yeah,
like,
yeah,
we used to be like, "Where's the lion? Be
Right,
aware
right,
of the
right.
lion." And so much of the stress isn't the same. There's like the
Yeah.
book, like how why zebras don't have ulcers from a long time ago, where it's like they're only stressed when they're running. And then when it's done, they're like chilling. So it's like us trying to get that nervous system moment back to being like, this is an alternate reality I'm imagining that actually isn't true. Bring
Yeah,
me
yeah.
back. Like I'm gonna be fine. No matter what's happening, it's fine.
Yeah,
No.
that's
Anyway.
the power of Post-its. That's
Power Post-its, I strongly recommend. I do. It's just these moments like, okay, it's fine. It's gonna be fine.
So well, thanks for being on. This has been fun. It's always nice to we've discovered so much, and then I'll also
thank
just
you both.
have good discussions. But I mean, so tell people, one, where they can go to learn about the the securing their stuff. As it were, and then how about yourself? Do you have? I assume you keep most of your journals to yourself, but do you? You big on LinkedIn? Do you have a weblog somewhere? What do you got going on?
So if you're interested in hardening your runtimes and getting all the proactive security of your dreams, edera.dev, edera.dev is where you can find us. And there's lots of interesting blogs and information on there about our products. For me, I am only on social media, on LinkedIn, for my mental health. So you will not find me on any other platforms. However, LinkedIn, I do try to write about things that I care about. So a lot of times it'll be about Adera and the things that we're doing. And many times, like the one that Whitney came across was more about my own personal experiences trying to let go of stuff. So there's some goodies on there. I do LinkedIn articles sometimes, but I do not have a blog. But I love meeting new people. So you can find me on LinkedIn, Emily Long.
You're the second person in like a week who basically, to rephrase both of them, was sort of like, the reason I do a lot of stuff on LinkedIn is it's oddly immune from the craziness of the other places. Like,
yeah, it's better. It's better. Like if you look at, you're like, there's still like the LinkedIn tropey type stuff where you're like, I roll out of my head, but I find it less doom scrolly.
Yeah, it's kind of like the enterprise version of that as seen on TV shelf at stores. Where you're just like, that's around here.
Like it's not great, but I can avoid it. Yeah, that's hilarious.
I've got my copper pans over here and stuff and whatever. That's fine.
Yes.
All right. Well, obviously something that, if you're still listening, you didn't want to avoid is another episode of Software Defined Interviews, which this is episode 122. So if you want to get the show notes from this, links to stuff that we mentioned, they're always a very quick read, the show notes, if you like brevity. But you can go to softwaredefinedinterviews.com/122. And you should feel free to subscribe. We have videos, as Whitney likes to say, with tens of people who watch it on YouTube.
Tens of viewers.
Yeah. We appreciate all 13 to 16 of them.
The best.
Yeah. And with that, we'll see everyone next time. Bye-bye.
Bye.
Bye.